Hello, the doc is in, and welcome back to another chapter of Tokyo Revengers, chapter 270, Worth My While. In the last chapter, we get to see the original timeline before all the time leaping. We have Shinichiro being our main character, our liaison for this experience here, and we see him during the end of the Black Dragon's first generation as it's coming to an end, right? He calls off the gang, everybody separates or whatever, right? And we cut a little bit into the future. We have the incident that we kind of know about in the current timeline, but this is the original version. Basically, we have Baji, Sanzu, Mikey hanging out, plane involved. Mikey doesn't want to share the plane. He runs upstairs, trips on stairs, falls down the stairs, dies. Well, becomes a vegetable. And basically, in the original timeline, Mikey is the one who holds the L, and Shinichiro, it seems, takes care of him. And where we kind of leave off at the end of the chapter is that Mikey is now, quote unquote, in middle school, and there we go. So hopping into this chapter, we start off, we have Shinichiro in a car with Baji, and basically they're talking about how Sanzu apparently is recently getting released from prison. And Baji's kind of talking about it, and he's like, well, Sanzu did, slice a bunch of his friends. He kind of feels like, Sanzu's kind of crazy. But Shinichiro's kind of keeping a happy face about it. He's like, oh, don't be like that. That's your boy. And Shinichiro even gives him a little bit of an excuse for Sanzu. And he's like, oh, well, didn't his friends make fun of Mikey and stuff? Can we really be surprised that he did then attack them and mortally wound them more than likely? And then Shinichiro then puts the pressure on Baji. He's like, oh, well, you're a delinquent. You don't be going to school, you be loitering, you're in middle school, shouldn't you be going to school? And Baji's like, whatever, it's not, middle school's not a big deal, whatever. So then we cut over to Sanzu, and he has a cool scar now. He has a scar over his eye. I'm thinking it's a little bit drippy, but nonetheless, he's just getting released from prison, and Baji and Shinichiro are there, and they're picking him up, and it seems like, as per the usual, Takomi's not feeling the way Sanzu's going about his life, and he's basically Shinichiro relays that Takomi's not going to talk to him, and Shinichiro explains that, well, he's decided to come pick him up. And so the first thing Sanzu says, ignoring the whole Takomi thing and Shinichiro being the one who's going to pick him up, he says, well, how's Mikey? And so they go see him. And Mikey comes out. I'm not going to lie to you, he looks like a skeleton. He's definitely dying. And so Sanzu kind of tries to talk to Mikey. Obviously, he's not really, Mikey can't really react and or talk or anything. But Sanzu touches Mikey's arm, and I guess it's cold, and obviously, again, Mikey can't react. So it's kind of just you see his cold, dying face. And we cut away from that a little bit into the future, and we basically have Sanzu kind of proclaiming what Mikey has become is that's not him. And Baji's kind of hey, look, I'm worried about Shinichiro. He's basically given up everything and lost everything. His grandpa's died, Emma's run away from home, he's basically paw off everything else just for the sake of taking care of Mikey. Who knows what will happen if Mikey passes away? And, well, Baji is pretty astute in his thought processing, because a month later, Mikey dies. We get this really nice panel with his vigil, and we have a cut to Shinichiro, angry crying, just going crazy on this wall. He's pretty, people say Shinichiro's pretty weak, but he's putting dents in this wall. I don't know, maybe that rage boost coming in, and we get this super angry panel from him. It's a pretty crazy face to think about when you think about the fact that he's supposed to be compared to Takemichi, who's known to cry like a 5-year-old when anything goes inconvenient. So to see Shinichiro make that face, that's a little crazy. But we move away from that, and we basically have Shinichiro kind of like just proclaiming, like, you know, I really put my whole life on the line for the sake of taking care of Mikey. Like, I got involved with shady people, I involved with shady religions and businesses and therapies and so on and so forth, all for the sake of him. And in the end, it ain't work out. And so he's kind of just like casually like, oh, well, maybe I should just go and kill all those people for deceiving me and making me believe Mikey would survive. And we find out the person he's talking to is Wakasa. It seems like in this alternate universe, he becomes the leader of another gang. We don't even know what the name of it, but it doesn't really matter because it's not going to exist in a chapter or two. But Wakasa basically says, in response to everything Shinichiro is saying, he's like, well, actually, I'm happy Mikey died. I mean, if he didn't die, chances are you would have died first. And then from there, Wakasa kind of throws out his invitation. He's like, hey, you know, you join my gang, top gang of the country, I'm just saying. But he kind of tosses that out there, and he's just like, well, much of either way, let's go out and drink for the rest of the night in honor of Shinichiro. Not Shinichiro, Mikey. So they go to this club, they're drinking, and Wakasa's looking to get some ladies over, you know, bring some happy joy to his mans, right? But it seems like the, not owner, because Wakasa says that he owns the bar, but I guess like the manager of the bar, another group came in before them, and like, you know, they've occupied everybody who works there, so to speak, right? And they're talking about a bunch of random stuff. They're talking about like basically bullying this old guy who lived under a tunnel or whatever, right? And so the manager's kind of explaining, like, you know, it's all with them or whatever. And so Wakasa's kind of just like, well, you know, is what it is, I'll be outie. I was kind of surprised about this, kind of like, well, you know, you own the bar and you're a gang member, why don't you just beat them up and kick them out? But I mean, I guess he owns this place, so he's maybe having a little bit more tact than that. And so as they're going along, as these other random guys are going along telling the story about bullying this old guy, basically we get a whole lore dump, which, why? But what happens is they're talking about this old guy, and basically the old guy just talks about, I can go back in time, and he's like, I can show you how, but the thing is, I need a trigger to go back in time. Without the trigger, I can't do anything. And so obviously they're just like, oh, well, you know, he's just some crazy old guy, whatever, it's not a big deal. Obviously, if he was a time leaper, why is he living under a tunnel, blah blah blah. And so they're making fun of him, and Shinichiro's like, this story is very funny, but not funny haha, more like funny, tell me all the details so that then I can go and find this guy. And so of course the guys are kind of like, I don't know why you're trying to press me about this old guy, all right? And Wakasa's trying to de-escalate. He's like, oh, you know, it's not a big deal, Shin, it's just a drunk story. But Shinichiro's not playing, and so he then proceeds to beat the ever-loving shit out of everybody there, and he's like, I'm gonna need the details. Where can I find this time leaper guy? End of chapter. Pretty good chapter. Definitely the original timeline, worst timeline. Shinichiro, I would definitely say, after Mikey dies, kind of gives the vibes of, I forgot which Mikey it was that was like kills everybody one. But that one, the one who killed everybody, yeah, you definitely giving those vibes right now. It's also interesting to see that it seems like no matter what, Sanzu is a little bit crazy. He's always katana wielding as well. And Baji always is kind of a delinquent, but they're all kind of delinquents because their home situations are never actually particularly good. So it's just interesting. It seems like Shinichiro and Mikey have some like deep connection, where in the universe where Shinichiro dies, that's kind of like the beginning of the downfall of Mikey, and in the universe where Mikey dies, that's the beginning of the downfall of Shinichiro in a sense. And I mean, it's hard to discuss this because we're just gonna get a reveal of everything that's gonna happen coming up. But it is interesting that it seems like not only is there 3 time leapers, but depending on who this guy is, especially if he's unrelated, which depending on your idea on like what direction the story's going in, whether it be Takemichi went all the way back in time and blah 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 blah, and set up all the events that coincide with the rest of the story. Or if you believe that maybe it's just like Takamichi's gonna be last time Leaper, whichever one you believe, this guy could either be Takamichi somehow, or he's another guy and he's the original Time Leaper, sort of. And somehow we'll learn how this guy is able to transfer his powers over to Shinichiro, or at least teach him how to time leap, and therefore allow Shinichiro to begin his time leaping journey, which then will kind of get like explanation of events that lead up to Shinichiro dying, and then the current timeline. But with that all being said, I think that's about it for the chapter. Leave a like if you liked the video, leave a dislike if you dislike. Comment, do you think the old guy is gonna end up being related to Takamichi in some weird way? Or is it just gonna end up being some random guy who's gonna teach Shinichiro how to time leap? Feel free to subscribe if you want to see videos like these every week when a new chapter comes out for Tokyo Revengers. Along with other series, check out the channel if you want to see the other series I cover. Thank you again for watching the video as far as you have, or skipping to this part because you felt like watching the very end of the chapter. I don't know. With that all being said, thank you again for watching the video, and the doc is out. Peace.